Yo everybody, it's me, Buster Green, and this is a random video I'm making completely unscripted where I'm just talking about my life. So, I have a negative video policy, and my negative video policy is this. I run a YouTube channel. I try to make things that are entertaining for people. I don't want to piss anyone off, and I don't want to stir the controversial pot, and I don't want to get into a fight with anybody. But, so that being said, if I make a video and later it turns out I had a bad take on something or I made a mistake, I will edit the video or I will straight up take the video down if it's just unsalvageable. Now, that being said, my most negative, most hated video online right now is the video where I talked about PalWorld. PalWorld was a game that came out 7 months ago, and when it came out 7 months ago, there was some major controversies around this game. Now, I did like what I saw in PalWorld. I did actually think it was a fun game and I wanted to play it, but I don't have an Xbox, I don't have a Steam Deck, so I couldn't play it when it came out. Now, that being said, eventually I ran into a random lawyer at my lunch, and me and him had this random conversation about, hey, do you think Nintendo is going to sue PalWorld? And we talked about it for, 20 minutes, and I came to the conclusion that it's very, very probable that PalWorld would get sued by Nintendo for the various things they had done. Now, Nintendo has a history of shutting down fan games, and, they're very, very razor tight on their IP. PalWorld, though, was a very, very interesting exception because it wasn't a fan game. It was a full release, and it made gangbusters worth of money. I think someone said it made more money than Pokemon Emerald. I don't think that's adjusted for inflation, but it made as much money as a mainstream Pokemon release, and that was big news. I know people have a lot against Pokemon because Pokemon has been definitely phoning it in the last two games. Pokemon Sword was way too short. Pokemon Scarlet was way too ugly. And yeah, hopefully the competition with PalWorld will help encourage them to get their shit together and make a better game. Supposedly their next game, Pokemon A to Z, does look like they're going to get their shit together and make a more open world immersive experience based on the success of Legend of Arceus. And hopefully it will actually take some inspiration from PalWorld in the right direction. But yeah, the main thing going on back when PalWorld came out was there were allegations that the game had been created using AI trained on Pokemon. There were allegations that it had been using stolen recycled assets from other Nintendo games, and no one could officially prove it at the time 7 months ago, but it's been 7 months and someone eventually did prove it, and that's why Nintendo's taken their ass to court. Now, I think the main reason that my video got downvoted back in the day was that there were just too many shills who were standing for PalWorld, being I like PalWorld, so I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I kind of thought that it was going to happen, and it happened. About 12 hours ago, this time yesterday, this time in Japan, Nintendo released a formal statement that they are filing a lawsuit for infringement of patent rights against Pocket Pair. It says that Representative Director and President Shintaro Fukuwara of Nintendo, together with the Pokemon Company, filed a patent infringement lawsuit in the Tokyo District Court against Pocket Pair on this day, September 18th, 2024, which was yesterday. The lawsuit grants an injunction to seek infringement and compensation damages on the grounds that PalWorld was a game developed and released by the defendant, infringing on multiple patent rights. Nintendo will continue to take necessary actions against any infringement of its intellectual property rights, including the Nintendo brand itself, to protect the intellectual properties it has worked hard to establish over the years. Now that it finally did happen, those same shills are freaking out and they're making a bunch of different arguments. Now, one big argument is that why would Nintendo do this? Nintendo is obviously anti-competition. They're trying to have a monopoly on the catching creatures games. And that's a completely false argument because that's not the case. They've allowed Digimon to exist. They've allowed Monster Rancher to exist. If you want to go and make a monster game where people catch and raise monsters, go ahead. Nintendo will not stop you on that. What they will stop you on is if it has Pikachu or Mewtwo or any of the other Pokemon in it, or characters that look exactly like them, just slightly changed a little bit. So yeah, The company that made PalWorld is called Pocket Pair, and as I looked into it and as other people looked into it, it became more and more obvious that Pocket Pair is very nefarious. They're a company that was started by a bunch of like AI tech bros with like no background in gaming, and they basically made their business piggybacking off the work of other creators. What I'm saying is that like one of their biggest games before this was Craftopia, which was a blatant ripoff of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And quite frankly, Nintendo should have sued them for that because Nintendo did copyright a variety of the mechanics from Breath of the Wild that were later shown up in Craftopia. Now, I thought that would be the first nail in their coffin, but they went on to create PalWorld, and PalWorld was a huge success. But once again, people were spotting that, these models are at the very least, if not straight up stolen from Pokemon, traced from Pokemon. And one of the biggest controversies was that after the game had fully come out, someone data mined PalWorld's data and they found a creature inside called the Dark Mutant. And the Dark Mutant was literally just Mewtwo Y from Pokemon Y painted black. That's all it was. I think it's got like some extra horns. You side by side these, there's like no fucking doubt. Fucking PalWorld stole straight up assets from Pokemon or they traced them. It's undeniable when you see the Dark Mutant. Now, the Dark Mutant was such a fucking controversy that the Dark Mutant was actually deleted from the game and never released. But yeah, so since then, like, I forgot about PalWorld. PalWorld's been chugging along. Kind of everyone stopped playing it after that first month, but yeah, they continue to exist. They apparently spent a majority of like their profits on like maintaining the server. And then they eventually ran out of money, I want to say around June. So in June, they were hard up for cash and they announced that there would be a major DLC expansion and also that they would be porting PalWorld to PS4, which I was excited about because I still haven't played PalWorld. And if I did came out on the PS4, I would actually buy it out of pure curiosity. But yeah, so apparently Pocket Pair went broke, and apparently Nintendo waited till they went broke to finally sue up that lawsuit and slam them with the banhammer of justice. Now, I'm not sure if this was strategic thinking on their part to wait until Pocket Pair had spent all their profits. Honestly, just based on how slow the legal system is, I kind of did think it would take up to 2 years to get the lawsuit settled and like into action. So like the fact they got it rolling in around 7 months, I didn't expect them to pull like an immediate cease and desist because there was enough obfuscation here that you could make an argument that PalWorld was a parody of Pokemon. And quite frankly, I think since it is going to court, PalWorld's biggest and greatest defense is that it is a parody of Pokemon. But yeah, so here we are. They've finally gone to court. I mean, they're going to court. The case has been filed in Japan, and let's wait and see the fireworks, people. Now, yeah, once again, there's an argument that Nintendo is trying to bully a smaller company. And while Nintendo has been definitely guilty of that in the past, but they're trying to protect their IP. And at the end of the day, Nintendo's IP is kind of all they got, especially as they're like trying to push it to like theme parks and movies now. I mean, like, it is kind of bad for business that there is this dirty Pokemon parody where you've got characters that look almost like the real Pokemon characters, but it involves sex and guns and murder and slavery and all that. So yeah, I can see why they would take offense to that. And like, even if that is offensive, under parody law, you can get away with that. But the fact they stole assets and created the Dark Mutant and God knows what else, like, that's the smoking gun that really just like led to this lawsuit, and it's kind of the main reason that I think Nintendo will ultimately prevail here. Now, even if Nintendo does ultimately prevail, I don't think this is the end of Pocket Pair, but honestly, I don't know. Actually, around the time that PalWorld was released, Pocket Pair was planning another game, which was an egregious ripoff of the beloved indie title Hollow Knight. And I know that a lot of people can defend Pocket Pair ripping off Nintendo, but how are you going to defend ripping off Hollow Knight? Hollow Knight was made by like an indie studio with like a couple of poor hardworking artists, and Pocket Pair just like wholeheartedly copied their game and just redrew the assets. So, that's fucked up. Now, that being said, I actually looked up that Hollow Knight clone today with the lawsuit and everything going on, and most traces of it have disappeared. So I'm not sure if that was shut down in a similar lawsuit, or maybe they realized that they were just being too unoriginal and they decided to rework it. Maybe their successful PalWorld showed them that they could be a legitimate company. But either way, now Nintendo's finally come for them. And, it's time to pay the piper. So I don't know what's going to happen after this. Pocket Pair might get shut down. Best case scenario, as I see it, they're allowed to continue on, but they'll probably have to pay Nintendo a sweet ass royalty check, and they'll probably have to design like half the pals in PalWorld to look less like Pokemon. Overall, Pocket Pair needs to get their shit together. And there are even artists like online who are like showing that you could easily redesign the pals that are ripoffs to not be such a big ripoff. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Either way, if you guys do have a physical copy of PalWorld, I would hold on to it because there's a chance that that becomes a rare collector's item in the future. And yeah, in that case, maybe you're actually the winner in the end because you're going to get a rare game that is banned from sale. So good for you guys. Either way, I'm kind of satisfied that I was proven right by history, which is the whole reason I left the video up. All right, later, guys.